Okay, let's give it a few minutes to have the attendees joining. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Anna Brand and I'm the head of events at Professionals in International Trade. As we start this webinar, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognize their continuing connection to land, water and community. I pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. During this webinar, you can submit your questions via the chat, and our speakers will answer as many as possible in the Q&A session. So let's start and welcome Professionals in International Trade's Chairman, Alexandre Kohn.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome everyone. So just to kickstart this webinar, I just wanted to say a few words about PAIH. We are a not-for-profit association founded in 2018, which creates opportunities for our members to connect socially and professionally to foster business relationships built on common interest in international trade and investment, business and foreign affairs. Our network is over 700 individuals and we're representing over 50 countries, and we've been growing organically in the past 3 years all across Australia, despite the COVID pandemic. We've just launched our paid membership program if you're interested to join and benefit from this powerful network. We've also grown our international policy team, who is working on producing critical analysis of the Australian and international trade policy frameworks, but also to translate their impacts for businesses in Australia and globally. We're lucky to have many corporate and government agencies among our partners, and I want to thank some of our Central European partners today for helping us with this event. Next slide, please. About the topic of today, I just wanted to say a few facts on the exciting topic that we're going to address, which is the vibrant ICT and tech ecosystem in Central Europe and the Nordics. And I wanted to emphasize on 3 main aspects. First, the government supports that have created a friendly regulatory frameworks to encourage entrepreneurship and support the startup tech community over the last few years. This started, for example, in 2016 when the Hungarian government launched the public agency High Ventures with over 160 million euros worth of EU and Hungarian Development Bank funds. It became one of the biggest investor companies in East Central Europe. Governments have also introduced since the late 90s the special economic zones that give investors tax breaks and other benefits to foster investment in the region. Those SEZs have become a widely used instrument for attracting investment, and their influence has grown considerably in the post-crisis period. The number of zones has quadrupled over the last 8 years. In Central and Eastern Europe, the ICT infrastructures have developed largely over the last few years, and for example, they gained almost 12 million online users between January and May 2020, according to the new COVID-19 Digital Sentiment Insights survey by McKinsey and Company. Many Central Europe capital cities have become the go-to destinations for large multinational companies to establish their R&D facilities, largely due to a great pool of tech talents. Along with R&D-based activities, the region has become known for its innovative startups, changing the way we work, socialize, and do business. The European tech ecosystem is rapidly maturing, and although undoubtedly it's been a challenging year for all, 2020 saw a record amount of VC investments in Central Europe's rising stars. The VC deals value hit a new annual record of 42.8 billion euros across 9,341 deals, according to PitchBook's 2020 European Venture Report. According to PFR Ventures, VC investment in the country's startups came from 85 different VC funds internationally and reached 293 294 million in 2019, more than in the 9 years beforehand combined. We will, of course, today talk about a lot of those cases, including, Skype, but also I wanted to emphasize on some of the newcomers on the market. And according to Deloitte Fast 50 2020 CE report, Poland's PAIH, for example, heads the ranking, followed by the Czech Republic Dodo, then Ulov Domov, which are great companies to follow. They have a company growth of over 60% over the last years. The top 3 countries, of course, being Poland, Czech Republic, and Croatia, according to the report again. A big challenge in the region is competing on the tech talents, as I mentioned, and the region has a large pool of skilled engineers and developers, with Polish, Czech, and Hungarian developers ranking 5th in 10 out of 15 domains in the HackerRank programming challenges. All of these open, of course, a lot of opportunities for Australian businesses to leverage capital, talents, but also plan their expansion across Europe. And therefore, I look forward to hearing some of the deep dive on those key topics from our key speakers today. Thank you, and over to you, Anna.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alex. So now let's welcome our first speaker today. Jakub Wilchelm from the Polish Investment and Trade Agency Office for Australia and New Zealand, who will give us some insights into Poland's ICT capabilities and perspectives on collaboration with Australia.
Thank you very much, Anna, and it's a pleasure to be here to speak and also to share this webinar with our friends from Estonia as one of the top innovative countries in that part of the world, together with Poland. But before I get to the ICT sector, I wanted to share with you a few facts about Poland and why Poland. Can we go to the next slide, please? And next one. Before, maybe I'll just introduce what we do and who we are. So the Polish Investment and Trade Agency is a governmental agency that supports Polish exporters, Polish investors in Poland, Polish investors abroad, so in our case in Australia or New Zealand, foreign investors to Poland, and foreign partners. We are a part of the Polish Development Fund, and in our fund we've got a national bank that supports or finance export activities. We have a venture fund that invests in companies, in capital projects. We've got an insurance company and many other companies, creating a one-stop shop for our companies and partners. Next one, please. So, few facts about Poland before we get to the ICT sector. So, some things for those who don't know Poland very well. Wanted to share those interesting facts. So, first of all, not sure if you knew, but Poland is one of the 2 countries in Europe that had the constant growth since 1991, even during the global financial crisis, and was the highest among all OECD countries. Changed, when the COVID hit, but till then we had that unprecedented growth. We're also the 6th largest economy in the EU and 22nd largest globally, and 5th most populous country in the EU. An interesting fact is by 2025 we are to attain levels of GDP per capita of Italy, Spain, and Portugal, and number 1 in CEE region for foreign direct investments, number 3 in the European Union. If we could go to the next slide, something that I wanted to share a few pictures for those who haven't been to Poland. And for me, every year when I go there, I'm really blown away. But by skyscrapers growing every year somewhere in Warsaw, with a high-speed rail that you can get from a city to a city, with a great infrastructure of highways. So the country has gone through an incredible economic miracle in the last 20 years. And why should you consider Poland? First of all, because of what I mentioned before, is the economic stability. We are also a regional leader in Transparency International Corruption Index, or in doing business. Very convenient location also, connecting west and east with an access to the Baltic Sea. And getting to the ICT sector, some technology interesting facts is we are the first country in the Central Eastern Europe and 13th globally by smartphone penetration, for example. Almost all card payments in Poland are contactless, and we've got the cheapest mobile data in CEE. So this is a very tech-savvy nation. Can we go to the next, please? And next, no, something went wrong, but I'll tell you that 3 largest subsectors of ICT is software development, and that's over 30%. Then around 20% is gaming, and you might have heard of our global bestsellers like Witcher. And also we are the 3rd subsector of ICT sector is outsourcing, which is very, very strong. But what I wanted to mention here, there's a few reasons why Australian companies should be interested in Australia. First of all, as a place of location of your businesses or representation of your businesses for Europe, and also as a collaboration. And that first very important aspect is pool of talents. So if you look at the graph, we've got 400,000 developers in Poland, and that actually changed significantly from 2019 when we had roughly 280,000 to 400,000 in 2019. It was a massive change. If you look at some stats, so we are number 5 in the world in technology skills. We are 10th in data science skills, number 3 in math in Europe. According to HackerRank, we are the 3rd worldwide best developers. We've got best developers. Number 1 in Java programming, number 2 in algorithms in the world. And that's all supported by 70,000 computer science students that graduate from universities every year. And the second thing I wanted to mention, if we can go to the next slide, is something also to consider is the salary versus skills. If you look here, this is actually that orange dot. This is Central Eastern Europe, including Poland is the largest a country in that group of countries. And if you look at the HackerRank score, and if you compare it with the average salary, we're definitely leading here. So this is something really to consider. Poland has really outstanding technology skills, but still much cost effective if you compare it with the UK or with the US. Can we go next, please? So if we were to summarize that and add few facts, so for those who were interested in investing in Poland or setting up your operations or representation for the EU, particularly, especially after Brexit, something that you should pay attention to is the stable economy. This is another thing is the emerging IT hub in Europe, and access to the 500 million customers in the EU. And by the emerging IT hub, I also mean foreign investments. And Microsoft will speak later about it, about their massive investment in Poland. Google is another one who invested $2 billion last year in the cloud computing, and many other areas. Talent pool that I mentioned before. And few other things that you should consider is R&D cash grants. EU funds. Poland is to be the largest beneficiary of the EU budget from 2021-2027. So lots of funds will be poured into the country. Poland is also the entire country is a special economic zone. So tax incentives and exemptions and a very friendly tech ecosystem. But if you are not ready yet to invest in Poland, and you wanted to consider collaboration with Polish companies, with software development, outsourcing, or any other form of collaboration, something that you should be paying attention to, again, is the talent pool, IT education, great quality price ratio that I mentioned about before. Poland is specializing in deep tech, in really advanced technologies and tailor-made solutions. We also have what Alexandre mentioned at the very beginning, a very vibrant startup community. And very strong work ethics and alike communication, very similar to Australia, with very good English skills in Poland. So these are all things to really consider. And if you wanted to, could we go to the next one, please? And if you wanted to consider Poland as your place for collaboration or investment, please get in touch with us at Sydney at paih.gov.pl. We'll be happy to answer all your questions, navigate you through different companies, different investment opportunities. Well, thank you very much, and I'm leaving the floor to our Polish speakers from companies based in Poland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jakub. So we will now hear from Pawel Jakubik, cloud-based digital transformation lead at Microsoft, about Microsoft investments in Poland.
Yeah.
So Pawel, I invite you to share your screen. Welcome.
Hello, guys. Great to be with you today evening, today morning, and to have so great audience and I would say speakers together with me. I wanted to start with sharing some facts about the investment by Microsoft during last 18 months, what we did in Poland. Especially the name of this investment is Polish Digital Volley. This is what we are building here. And let me share the screen now. I should be now on the screen. And let's start maybe from the beginning, that we start with the building of the digital infrastructure for Polish citizen and for the Polish organization. How we are building Polish cloud by Microsoft Azure. This is the title of my 5-minute pitch. And I want to say maybe a few words about me, because I am a business guy. I'm not typical technology guy, but I joined technology 12 years ago, and I was on FSI sector before. And last 4 years I spent as a cloud regional lead here to convince our decision makers in Redmond to invest this massive, I would say, project with the Azure region. Polska Dolina Cyfrowa in Polish Digital Volley partnership with National Cloud Operator. I am very happy that Jakub is with us from PAIH and from PFR, because PFR as a government investment fund, they are a part of this National Cloud Polish Operator. And together with some anchor tenants from Polish industry, we started our discussion more than 3 years ago. I want to say that 4 years ago, Poland was not on the map on the investment by Microsoft. We've been there in the deeper pipeline on this investment. It was some more matured market nominated to this kind of investment. But together with National Cloud Operator, with PKO BP, PKO is the largest Polish bank, and together with PFR decision makers, we did, I would say, great job in 2017, and we prepared a very professional business case for Poland and for also 3 Seas region, where we have 12 countries, 125 million citizens, and we built our business case on a solid facts. How big is the market in Poland already locked for some public cloud services due to regulations and the requirement that customer data are not allowed to leave Polish territory as a geography. And this business case was prepared with IDC Institute, with Accenture, also with our expert, and we prove that more than $6 billion are locked now on the public cloud services to of course to the all cloud vendors due to some regulations on the specific sectors like financial services industries, like central government administration, like telco sector, energy, oil and gas. On the slide, you see 4 pillars of our program, Polish Digital Volley. On the left side is a investment, $1 billion we dedicated in 5 years to build a free massive data center availability zones. It is now almost ready because project started 18 months ago. And this is around the Warsaw in 3 different geo-localization, top in class infrastructure built in the latest technology, what technology sector can deliver. some specifics I can give that mix of energy of this region. We will start 20% from the renewable energy, 80% from traditional. But in 2025, we want to have 80% from the renewable energy and 20% from the traditional. The maximum power of this region will be more than 75 megawatts of the energy. The very interesting is that backup and the sustainability of this IT infrastructure will be also operated by hydrogen engines. So this is also the very latest architecture of the data center. This green second pillar, go to market, this is our investment to skilling, to education, and to professional services. We did a great job with technology partners in Poland in last 18 months. We already skilled 150,000 programmers. Jakub presented that Poland as a country has more than 400,000 developers now. So 150 in last 18 months already did the latest certification of the cloud competences. And we are really proud of the speed what is now on the market. Microsoft is not only the vendor who are making now the region in Poland. Google did also a great job, and the full respect to our friends from Google. So two big worldwide vendors now are serving the latest AI technology, the latest, I would say, cloud capabilities to the Polish organization. The third pillar, trusted cloud, this is the compliance, privacy, and security. This is one of the most important factors when you are delivering cloud services, that customers are feeling the full trust to the services what you are serving. So here we are also on the highest level. And the last one, data residency, it was the main also, I would say, argument when I presented to our US decision makers this business case more than 3 years ago. Data residency and this regulatory aspects was the main argument to our financial officers to release and to launch this big project to Poland. Here are some media, I would say, summaries how big response we had from the market. This what I want to show you in the end of this is also the security details. So here is how cloud services are preventing the customers on the daily basis. 3,500 people, expert, are every day working on to block. You know, daily we are receiving 6.5 trillion signals daily. So there's a massive now the area where cloud vendors must to have full focus to protect customers. On the right side, you see the security compliance, more than 92.
Pawel?
Yeah.
I think we are seeing a different screen. You are probably showing other monitor.
Okay. So I am now switching to
Yes.
compliance, maybe. You see the map of the Europe now, guys?
No, we see the Inwestorzy Polskiej Doliny Cyfrowej.
So this is also the one of the best slides. So let me finish now on this Polish innovator slide here, where I want to say that we have more than 20 examples from last year, where you see the several brands from the Polish market, like the largest Polish banks, PKO BP, PKO SA, mBank, like the Polish retailer, Żabka, CCC, or Amrest. Or you can see some also startups like Authentic, the digital signature, or BeSafe, the insurance startup. So already Polish digital volley is not a marketing, this is the real project. You see the brands who joined our programs, and really this is a big value for Polish organization. The Microsoft launch of the full services from the Azure region will be announced next year. Please be focused here in the second half of the next year. where we will announce the full Azure portfolio to the Polish and to the Free Sea countries. This is all from my side. Anna, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pawel. Thank you. Can you please stop your screen sharing so we move back to perfect? Thank you. So now we'd like to welcome our next speaker, Wludyka, the Managing Director at Comarch, Australia.
Thank you, Anna. And let me just start sharing my screen, and I hope I'm showing the correct screen.
That looks good, Jarek.
Okay, fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. It's really great to be here at tonight's event. My name is Jaroslaw Wludyka, or simply Jarek, and I'm the Managing Director of Comarch Australia and Comarch New Zealand. I mean, first of all, thank you to the organizers for bringing this event together and allowing me the opportunity to present a case study of a Polish company this time that is a great example of a Polish-Australian trading relationship, as well as an expansion of a 100% Polish company into the world. I have been working for Comarch for nearly 7 years now. 5 of those years I've spent in Southeast Asia, and the last 2 years here in Australia. So let me maybe start by just telling you a little bit about who Comarch is. Okay, I hope you can see this. So Comarch is a company that originated from Poland. However, at this point in time, we are present on 5 continents, 30 countries, about 90 offices around the globe. What's special about Comarch is that we have come to existence as a university spin-off in the early 90s, which at this point in time in Poland, and I'm sure in most of Central Eastern Europe, was a pretty unusual situation to have happened. So we're pretty proud of our university heritage, and even up to today, we are still run by a university professor, and we still hire a large number of graduates from the best Polish universities. So we have that really strong university heritage. Additionally, what I'd like to mention is we've pretty quickly went public. Only after 6 years of formal existence, Comarch has decided we actually need more capital to accelerate our growth. And since that time, we have been publicly listed, which helped us to gain credibility and recognition among our clients and partners. Last but not least, and probably one of the most important facts why Comarch has been so successful is, of course, the people that make up Comarch. And we're pretty proud to be one of the biggest employers in Krakow and probably in the whole of Poland. We hire about 6,500 highly educated and talented employees, most of which are graduates of the best European universities, and they hold generally master's degree in one of the STEM or business fields. Okay, so just moving on to just show you a little bit about where we have already managed to get in the world. So as you can see on the map on the slide, we're present in most of the world, every continent. Probably the continent where we have most work left ahead of us is still Africa, and that's simply the result of our organic growth, whereby Comarch moves to markets as and per the opportunities present themselves. So one of the most recent additions to this map were actually Australia and New Zealand, and I'll be happy to tell you a little bit about that in a moment. Just one other, I think, important aspect on the company itself. So we're pretty, as I said earlier, a pretty large company, 6,500 people, not doing just one product. In fact, Comarch consists of 7 separate divisions, which pretty much run like separate companies. However, the three key pillars, as you can see on the slide, represented by the three largest circles, the three pillars are really telecommunication, services sector, and financial services. So just briefly explaining what these mean. So in telecommunication, Comarch is basically supplying very critical systems for any telecommunication company to run things like their billing, their CRM, to handle their network faults, to monitor the network performance, and so on. So we can basically run a whole telco from A to Z. The second circle, services, so that's what we call the services sector. This basically means a division of our company that provides a range of solutions for companies in the services industry. So that can really be any company. So it could be a telco, it could be a bank, it could be a retail company, any company that basically does business with end customers. And for those businesses, we can provide a range of solutions, starting from data management, e-invoicing, various marketing systems such as loyalty or omni-channel campaign management. And of course, last but not least, in this particular division, we can also provide data center services. So we also build, operate, and manage our own data centers. In some cases, we co-locate, but yeah, in some, we actually manage the whole building. And actually, at the moment, Comarch is building a data center in the United States. The third key sector for Comarch is financial services. And within this area, we deliver critical applications for banks and insurance companies, such as, for example, internet banking, loan origination, or wealth management. So apart from these key three pillars, which also happen to be the key proposition for Australia and New Zealand market, we also provide services in the ERP, business intelligence area, Internet of Things. We provide services to public administration in Poland, as well as healthcare. So as you can see, it's quite a broad spectrum of products and services. And just some real life examples of what that means. So for example, more than 50 telecom companies worldwide are using Comarch OSS and BSS systems to run their operations. More than 2.5 million of operations are processed through our systems in terms of securities annually. We support more than 90 hospitals with various IT systems. Our loyalty programs around the world, they support about 290 million members. About 7,500 companies use backup services, which are based on Comarch proprietary cloud storage services. And about 26,000 companies use various other paid solutions on the Comarch cloud, including a very popular ERP system that Comarch offers in Poland and a few other markets, predominantly in Europe. Now, of course, given our size, Comarch understands our role in the larger society. So we have various activities and initiatives in that space, ranging from ecology to education. So some of the examples on the left, it's one of our buildings in Poland, which is our roof is completely covered by solar panels, and the whole building is actually powered solely from that source. We have various pro-environment measures. So for example, in Krakow, where our headquarters is, we support many green projects which involve planting trees and things like that. And last but not least, we organize various educational activities with the universities in Poland. So we're almost at the end. I just wanted to present some wins at the end for the Australian and New Zealand market and how our journey here looked like. So actually, we started our first project with Australia was back in 2018, and that's where we delivered a loyalty platform for one of the Australian wagering and media companies, which is a very I think popular pastime in Australia. We just recently had the Melbourne Cup, which is one of the biggest horse races in the world. I'm not sure who is a fan of this, but in Australia, they say that this is the race that stops the nation. So we delivered that project in just over 4 months, which was a record-breaking time even for Comarch, and we delivered that mostly remotely. Although we had some local presence, we did fly people to Australia. But this was a huge success, quickly delivered, and was able to support the operations of the company. Then moving to the next project, only next year, we expanded our cooperation with one of our global partners, BP, to whom we delivered the platform that supports the BP rewards program in Australia, which I think has recently already surpassed 1.5 million members. Then moving to the following year, we started cooperation with an Australian insurance and healthcare company on a project which was very interesting. It was called the Internet of Knees. So as you know, people say that we have this Internet of things. This was the Internet of Knees, and this was a project that aimed at improving how patients with knee injuries recover from those injuries. So Comarch actually delivered some hardware and some software systems there. Last but not least, and this time in New Zealand, and a very special project for Comarch, we signed a 10-year contract with one of the telecom companies there to deliver an end-to-end suite of business support systems. And this happens to be actually, and still is, the largest contract in Comarch whole history. So as you can see, just after basically 2 years of presence, we've managed to sign one of the biggest deals in our history. So definitely moving to Australia and New Zealand were great choices for Comarch, and yeah, we're looking forward to what the future holds. And that's all from me. And I'm sorry if it took a bit longer than I was supposed to, but yeah, I tried my best. Thank you very much, and back to you, Anna.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your presentation, Jarek. And yes, as we are running a few minutes behind schedule, let's jump straight over to the next speaker. So I'd like to now introduce Virge Nielsen from the Estonian Australian Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Now we have an issue with the slides again. Welcome, Virge.
Hi, thank you for that. Yeah, I was going to say I don't look like Pawel, but it wouldn't be a bad look either. So yes, I'm Virge Nielsen from Estonian Australian Chamber of Commerce, which is an organization dedicated to facilitating trade and investment between the two countries, but also for providing networking opportunities and building bonds with all sorts of partners, as many of whom are present here today. And I'm going to give you just a little glance of Estonia. First of all, let's start with where Estonia really is. So if you look at the sort of central axis of Europe and move about 12 hours north from Poland, you're likely to hit Estonia. It's just down from Finland, just left from Russia, just right from Sweden, and right above Latvia. So it's not a overly large country. It's about 45,000 square kilometers. So for Australian reference, that's about 3/4 of Tasmania. But in terms of European countries, it's bigger than several others, bigger than Belgium, bigger than Switzerland, and a few others. The population is 1.3 million, which roughly in Australian terms translates to the Greater Adelaide size. Currency is euro, and Estonia is member of EU, NATO, Schengen countries, digital nations. Now, the defining feature about Estonia is that access to internet was actually made a basic human right there in year 2000. And how that has really transformed the society is quite amazing. So if we go to the next slide, Anna. What this has transformed to over time means is that 99% of services in Estonia are online. It's a very citizen-centric framework. and all individuals have access to their own personal data. They own their personal data. But if you ask, what is that 1% that is still not online? You still have to turn up in person and give your signature to get married or to get divorced, just to prove on the presence of notary that you're doing this willingly. Other than that, the electronic signatures are widely more trusted than physical signatures in Estonia. Internet voting for all elections. I believe it's still the only country that does the election voting online. And digital health records, of course. And you're never gonna forget your prescription home when you're going to the pharmacy. You don't need a prescription. It's all against your personal record, and any pharmacist anywhere can look it up. Of course, naturally, all tax is submitted online, and even reporting crime is online, and much, much more. So if we move to the next slide, Anna, such digital society, really what that has actually then resulted in is, unsurprisingly, about 5.9% of Estonian workforce is in ICT sector. Now, for comparison, Australia, I believe, is around 1.2%. But of course, Australia has many other areas that it has invested into instead. This really, of course, means that there's world-class skills and experience in Estonia in this sector. And currently, somewhere around 120 plus countries are using Estonian ICT services in one way or other. Estonia has a very, very strong standing in the cybersecurity sector. In fact, it's believed to be first in Europe in the Global Cybersecurity Index. And the infrastructure for ICT sector in Estonia is ultra modern. Blockchain has been used since 2008 in very innovative ways in Estonia, really leading there with that part. And the amazing thing that really drives the ICT sector in Estonia is the public to private partnership. And this has resulted in a very, very intense startup network in the sector. It's about 1,000 plus startups in Estonia in the sector specifically, and 7 whom Estonia considers to be true unicorns. So if we go to the next slide, Anna. Here, some of these names you may recognize. Some of these names have been also rebranded. Skype, of course, quite a mature unicorn by now. Same with Pipedrive. Playtech is a gambling software. Bolt you may have heard of before under the name of Taxify as well. Zego is a very technically enabled motor insurance company. And ID.me is a secure digital verification tool. But today you will hear from WISE, or also formerly known as TransferWise, from our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rigo. Yes, and now let's come to our last industry case. Let's hear from WISE, from Anha Kembai. Welcome, Anha.
Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you for hosting this event. My name's Anha, and I look after the communications across Australia and New Zealand for WISE. As Virgo mentioned, we're an Estonian startup that has now listed on the London Stock Exchange, but is a cross-border technology company building the best way to make money move around the world. Very quickly, I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to whiz through this very quickly. So the mission that we have is to build the world's most powerful cross-border money moving machine. And the way that we do that is across 3 products: WISE Transfer, or TransferWise as it was first known, which is the world's best money transfer service. Hopefully some of you here already use it to send money back home to Poland or to Estonia. Then you have the WISE Account, which is building the world's best international banking app. And that is for us to make sure that, we can manage our money across Euro or across AUD, New Zealand dollars, whatever it might be, And finally, Wise Platform, which is becoming the underlying infrastructure that is now powering cross-border payments for banks and technology companies around the world. So that's a very quick summary of what we're trying to achieve. And on the journey so far, what we have achieved so far is we've now got 11 million customers around the world. We process about 54 billion volume in just the last financial year, and 421 million in revenue, which has been profitable since 2017. So as Virga mentioned, we're a unicorn, but a rare profitable unicorn in financial services as well. And of course, speaking to today's theme, we've got about 2,500 employees across 14 global offices, the home in Tallinn, of course, and then a few offices around Budapest, Cherkasy, London, Australia, Singapore, and US, and a whole bunch of other regions as well. So this is what we do. This is where we've been. We've been in Australia now for about 5 years as well. And obviously it makes a really important market for any kind of European country expanding because of similarities in language and the proximity to Europe from like a business perspective as well. So I'll end it there, and maybe I will hand over to Anna, who will then lead us into the next session. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anna. So now we will move on to the panel discussion. Before we start, we're running a little bit over time. We will leave this webinar open for the discussion another 10 or 15 minutes over the scheduled time. For everyone who's not able to stay online, the recording will be shared with you afterwards. But yeah, it would be great if you can stay online and share your questions via the chat. So I'd like now to introduce our moderator, Anna Voigt. Anna is the president of the Polish-Australian Business Forum and a director digital transformation at PwC. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for organizing such a stunning and wonderful webinar. How much have we learned about from those case studies? And I can imagine that we probably can stay for another 60 minutes asking so many questions to our wonderful guests and panelists. I will try to be brief and ask only a couple of them, but I do hope that you can stay with us online and can ask more and join our conversation. We've heard from Jakub and the rest of the panelists how amazing and what's the growth of the regions of CEE, as very often we call not only Poland, but also countries around like Estonia, Lithuania. But today I wanted to really start our conversations with our panelists with interesting questions about what Australian investors know about this region, what the choice they make while they're choosing the partners for the business. And I thought about, why don't we start with Jarek. Jarek, you've built the business very successfully here in Australia and New Zealand. So what's your perspective when you start your first conversations with Australian business?
Hi, Anna. That's of course a very good question. Yeah, I mean, Australia and New Zealand, as you can see from the map, is pretty far from Poland. Actually, New Zealand, when I checked on Google, it's actually the furthest point on Earth from Poland, so it's not the most natural thing for companies from Australia and New Zealand to think about doing business with Poland because of the geographical distance, and I think that is still a kind of maybe a psychological or maybe even a geographical barrier. But I think there's a lot to offer. And I'm sure we will cover those things in a while. At the moment, what we observed is that Australian and New Zealand companies generally tend to go to the Western countries for innovation. So countries like US, UK, Western Europe, but also Singapore. So some other developed economies. So that's where Australian and New Zealand companies tend to get their innovative solutions, I would say. But of course, we also see a trend of outsourcing and kind of seeking that cost advantage, where the destination or the countries that are most commonly selected by Australian and New Zealand businesses is countries like India or Philippines or other Asian destinations. So Poland or Estonia, I think, to that matter, aren't exactly on the map, but they're getting there. and yeah, we hope we can change that.
Yes, fantastic. I think it is almost natural to hear that from one side, Australian companies are looking for innovations, from the other, from the cost competitiveness, finding the right balance between both. And obviously, Pawel, I couldn't not go back to the most iconic company that we know, Microsoft. You've made a massive investment in Poland. So what would be your advice, and what would be the right starting point for Australian companies wanting to invest in the region?
Yeah, thank you, Anna, for this question. I think as a Microsoft, I don't know this iconic, but I want to say for sure rock solid investor, yeah, who are making very, I would say, solid decisions in long-term perspective. So I want to say to the Australian investor for sure that Poland still is a very attractive country to invest. Our speed to market, our, I would say, capabilities, what we have available on the markets, are still one of the best in this region of Europe. And I'm not talking only about the ICT and IT technology and programmers and the developer, but I am talking about the most of the industries. Of course, Poland is not maybe famous from the brand like that we have many unicorns, because, for instance, we have some other Eastern Europe countries with the great examples of unicorns, also with Baltic countries, with Romanian countries. But having the size of the Poland, 40 million people land, with this still growing economy, and this what Jakub presented, that till the COVID time, you know, it was on the two countries with this, I would say, permanent positive GDP growth. Really, I want to say that Poland is attractive because of, on the first, I want to name the attitude, how we are treating the investors, and how the, I would say, the Polish behaviors are fitting to the external investor. On the second, I want to say the competences. So really, our education system and how many students we are every year delivering to the industries, it's impressive, really. And a lot of technical universities, computer science, but not only, we have a lot of other universities with a great quality, growing from year to year with the number of good people on the market. On the third one, I want to say there is from one side is challenges, because still we are looking for the ideal model to support from government, from the local government, from some institution to prepare the platform to adopt the investment. But having my example, how I was negotiate with Polish government our investment, really full respect also to PAIH, to how they support us with some, you know, approvals and to accelerate our final decision. So for sure, having the industries like retail, e-commerce, gaming is one of the leading in Poland. You should know that gaming is an example where companies like, you know, CD Projekt and others, now they are the iconic brands on the worldwide with the worldwide visibility. So for sure, it should be solid business case before the decision, but also should be some trust in advance from the investors that Poland is a credible, I would say, place to invest. Thank you.
Thanks, Pawel. I think that's very important. The key components that always makes the business works is about trust, but it's also having the right ecosystem that connects public and private sectors to bring that together. But it's something more that Jarek has mentioned at the beginning. It was about that magic component between innovations and it being cost effective. And I want to go back to Anha. We had this great conversation a couple of days ago, preparing to this panel, speaking about what makes the magic for the region, why actually the technology has been so well embedded.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I can speak on behalf of Estonia, just as a guest of Estonia, Estonia maybe today. But what I've experienced maybe in answer to one of the questions somebody posted in chat as well is comparing Australia to going to somewhere like, you know, Estonia or Central Europe or Poland, whatever it might be. I think the cultures of European, you know, countries, but also business cultures themselves, they are much more willing to take risk compared to what Australian businesses or Australian culture is like. And I think that has largely come from, you know, European history itself and the struggles that each individual countries have gone through. And, you know, looking at the example of Estonia as well, coming and building its own digital nation. And like Virga mentioned, you know, making internet a basic human right, which means that they have digital advancement capabilities from well earlier on compared to what, you know, Australia and similar nations here are still coming to terms with it. So from that perspective, what you're seeing, European, you know, countries, European nations have this mentality of taking risks and trying to build everything from scratch and trying to become independent. And what that translates into is very innovating companies. And that same, you know, startup mentality almost exists between the government and also the startup and the private sector itself. So the way that a private sector company would be run in terms of efficiencies, in terms of customer mindset, is the same way that governments are also run. You know, they're thinking from a digital first perspective, they're thinking about what is the customer problem or what is the problem that we are solving for our citizens to give them a better life. And that is what I can see translating and the biggest difference in terms of the way business is done in Europe and how business is done in Australia.
Thank you, Anha. I think it's very interesting connecting those two both thoughts. From one side, Jarek shared that our Australian businesses very often are very clear in terms of looking for the support and the partners around different geographies. From one side on the cost perspective, from the other side from the innovative. What I'm hearing from you and what I'm observing those phenomenal investments, I can see that these particular regions, or in Estonia or in Poland, you can find them both together in the right competitive manner with the great access to the talent, but also with very good innovation thinking and solving the problems. I'm seeing a lot of you sending a lot of questions, and I promise that we're going to touch on some of them. But before that, this panel couldn't be possible if I would not touch on some of the biggest problems that we have these days. And this week, when most of us looking on Glasgow and seeing the biggest decisions that we are making around the world, I could not ask our panelists on how we're going to solve the biggest problems. And obviously, Pawel, I'll come back to you. Microsoft always stands very strongly about the sustainability. And I wanted to ask you from your experience and perspective, what is the role of technology? What is the role of us, the major companies, in tapping in and joining in solving ESG and how to apply those KPIs in our day-to-day life?
Yeah, ESG is now the really hot topic, and I am happy that it's not only on marketing and PR, but also on some real execution. This is what I am observing in this part of Europe. We are relatively well prepared on the environment and the sustainability, and we have some issue on governance still. So a lot of companies are putting to their strategy the solid targets of ESG and commitment. And when you are going to the details and after the fact checking where they are, there is no clear, I would say, reply and clear numbers what they achieved. I think that ESG is a kind of one of the most urgent for the full global population topic, what we should take care now. As a technology is an enabler to the business. We are enabling some services to be modern, to be innovative, to build innovation, to build digital, I would say, experience. And having this digital world, I want to encourage our audience to have some reflection also, how to build the bridge between the digital behavior, technology capabilities to ESG topics, because sometimes it looks that it's far away from the technology digital to ESG. But finally, if you will find some really, examples. I can give some examples from my generic sector, financial services. If you have a physical contacts with customers in the branches, and a lot of customers are visiting these branches, taking the time, using the space, using the energy, using the tools in the branches. Imagine how big savings you are making if you are on the mobile banking smartphone application, and if you are able to manage yourself with the simple transaction. And this is only the very, I would say, trivial example from the FSI, but business world is delivering hundreds of thousands of examples how we can change our mentality. And it's easy to talk on behalf of the global vendor, because it's easy because my corporation is delivering me the narration. But I want to say now, as a private person, I am really taking care that about my two daughters living on this planet, living in Poland, and to most probably their kids in the future, what I am waiting, by the way, that how they will live with this environment. And I want to use technology to build a security for them. So to maximize, and for instance, my example with the mix of energy, of the renewable, of the wind farm energy, what we will deliver to data center, this is the example. Sorry to be limited mostly to the technology topics, but this is my perspective. Thank you, Anna. And sorry, but I have to run because I am fixed for another. It was great to be with you today.
Thank you, Pawel. Fantastic to have you, and thank you for sharing your perspective. We absolutely would have probably 5 other questions too, Pawel, but hey, let's make a list and we're going to send them. I'm pretty sure we're going to find a way once again to connect with Pawel. But I want to continue with this topic because I brought obviously COP26 and ESG for a reason with technology. We all know that except of solving problems with climate, the second biggest challenge in front of us is the fourth industrial revolution, and the shift that we need to make from using a paper, from using other ways of working, into transforming completely the way we work today. And obviously I wanted to ask Anha, because again, I think there's so much of a role of technology in changing and shifting the way we work, the way we think, the way we connect and do the business.
Yeah, I think, there's so many ways, right? Like obviously when we look at ways of working, the pandemic has made remote working, webinars like these have become really easy now for when we look at, doing business collaboration. But I think what would be really interesting, and maybe I can share examples again from a WISE perspective, is actually changing the mindsets of existing regulation or existing government policies. So think about it this way, that we've been doing businesses before, and if you wanted to sign a contract, you had to do wet ink signatures, otherwise nothing would be compliant or something like that. These kind of things have now sort of gone away with because, business people could not fly around the world to sign a contract anymore because of the pandemic. So government policies, business policies, banking policies, they got updated to say that, okay, we'll accept DocuSign signatures or e-signatures, and, processes like doing AGMs in person, for example, are now acceptable in Australia to do online AGMs because, it's in 2 years' time, we've completely upended the way that, business and everything is done. But from looking at it from the role of technology and the role of what private sector can do as well, some examples of what, WISE is doing around the world. So looking at how money used to move before, you had to go physically to a bank branch with documents, maybe with cash, to say that I'm going to send money from Australia to Poland today. And then, there'd be a whole chain of command and paper trails from here to another bank in Asia before your money finally reaches your destination in Poland, right? This was completely inefficient. And when you look at the process that is involved from a customer experience perspective, where you have to think about identifying the customer, you have to make sure you're following money laundering policies and making sure it's only good policies that work. It's all very complicated, and governments are obviously very risk averse to making sure that you're not breaking any kind of rules and regulations. So the role of private sector, and something that WISE has been doing, is educating governments that there is actually a better way to do this, right? So WISE is a fully digital product, for example. If you want to get verified as a customer to make sure we fit with the compliance regulations around the world, you can do digital verification where you just upload, your passport and identification documents to prove your identity, which you can do that easily in Europe and the UK. But in some jurisdictions like Asia or Africa, this doesn't exist. So how does a product like Wise operate when a customer cannot even verify themselves digitally? What that would mean is you have to physically open branches and you have to physically undergo all these overhead expenses, for example, of doing business, which is completely inefficient, right? And completely goes against why a product like Wise exists in the first place. So the process that a company like the private sector or Wise does is actually working with regulators. So what we did is in Singapore, we said that, okay, fine, we'll take the process of actually opening up a physical office. And we had one person sitting there and a whole queue of people in Singapore who would come in with their identification documents, and we had to rubber stamp them, and then they could onboard to use Wise. And then once the government got comfortable that, okay, Wise is not a dodgy operator, they can allow to do business in Singapore, for example, they said, okay, we'll allow you to do online verification. So what they said is like, but you have to put a unique Singaporean spin to it. They said uploading the documents on his own is not going to be enough. What you need to do is you actually have to put your identification document next to you like this, and then take a selfie so that we can actually see that the right person is holding the right documentation. So that was step 2 into verification. They got comfortable with that after like 2 years. And then they went to the original verification process that existed 5 years ago in Europe, where you could just upload your document and, that's all good to go. Now what has happened is Wise is completely integrated directly with the government, Singaporean government's own database. So what that happens is like whatever your unique tax number is or identification number is, you just type that in, and because all your information is already held with Singaporean government, they know who you are, and you can easily now get online verified. So this example is an example of how private sector can work with government for transformation, digital transformation. And the benefit of this is it's not just relevant for Wise. What happens now is any company that wants to do digital verification can go directly straight to this instant verification process, which took 5 years for Wise to basically break down the barriers with government to make them comfortable. So what you can see now is the benefit of one company's 5-year journey has now led to industry-wide revolution and change, which means that any company now that wants to launch in Singapore and wants to do KYC verification can instantly get it done. So I think these are the examples that I think private sector can also do when it comes to innovation and big thinking ideas.
Thank you, Anha. I think it was a great example of how each of us and how technology can transform, but also support those who might not feel comfortable with the technology, feel much more comfortable by showing example. I'm very conscious of time, but I wanted to finish this webinar with the last questions to Jarek. There's a couple of questions coming over on our chats around how would we compare the culture between Australian companies and the ones who are operating in Nordics and CE. So a couple of words. I know that you've mentioned obviously building the business in here, so we'd love to get your views.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and yeah, I guess we could try and look for some small differences, of course, cultural and so on. But I think on a professional level, the culture in Europe and Australia are let's say close enough that it's not really causing any big dramas, in any conversations. Of course, country specifics will always be there, but I really don't think those are the problem in understanding each other and doing business with each other. So as far as I'm concerned, the similarity is really high. It could only get higher if it was one Polish person speaking to another Polish person, but we don't need to get there in order to do business with each other. So yeah, I think the compatibility is definitely there, and yeah, I couldn't ask for more. I mean, I've been based in Asia for a while, and I probably can't say the same about the compatibility between the Polish mentality and the Asian mentality, which, by the way, that it's not just one Asian mentality. There's a lot. Every country in Asia, in Southeast Asia, was different. Thailand to Malaysia, Singapore to Indonesia, you know, or Philippines. But you know, I love those differences, and I think if you're an open person, you can really be successful with you know, any culture. So Australia is definitely one of the easiest ones. That's how I would put it.
Thanks, Jarek. That's really good. That's very encouraging. And I think at the end of the day, the one thing what I'm hearing is all about building a trust, believing and becoming ready, choosing and using the existing ecosystem. So from our side, thank you so much. Thank you, great panelists, and over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Anna. Yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us today. Thanks to our moderator, Anna, and our speakers and the partners for this webinar, the Polish Investment and Trade Agency, the Estonian Australian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and also the Polish Australian Business Forum. I hope you enjoyed the webinar today. We have a next webinar on from professionals in international trade next week, next Thursday. We will post in the chat box the registration link. So this one will focus on Africa as a region, opportunities for Australian businesses in that region, in collaboration with the Australian African Chamber of Industry and Commerce, BDO, and DFAT. Thank you very much, and hope to see you at one of the next PIT events.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.